So I've just come across a video about Metallica songs with hidden connection. There's a couple of them actually, and I'll leave the links in description. And so the second part featured a trilogy, The Black End, My Freedom Misery, and the third one is the one I won't say because every time I f it up. And you know the hidden connection there if you are geeky enough about Metallica. But despite its kind of surface level Metallica knowledge, this video got me thinking about all the trilogies of Metallica that you might not know about. And of course, the first one to think of is The Unforgiven. That's like the obvious choice, and it is in the name. The Unforgiven original one from Black Album, The Unforgiven 2 from Reload, The Unforgiven 3 from Death Magnetic. It's apparently a trilogy. It was intended to be so by design, and that's the story that unfolds. The connection there is the first one about a child, then a young man, and then the grown man matured who reflects on the life, and now he cannot forgive himself. Before that it was the world and the partner or whatever. But that was the story of a man that got wrapped in trilogy. And the third one could have not been because it was too personal for James, but not too cool for everyone else.
Unforgiven 3. that was the one that I had to fight to get on the record.
Everyone thought of The Unforgiven 3 as kind of cheesy, not at par with the previous two, but it was a personal matter for James, so we got a pretty distinct out of the whole trilogy because it's not in A minor and everything, but it got a badass solo. But anyway, we won't discuss this apparent trilogy by Metallica. We actually had a video like from 5 years ago. We'll talk about trilogies of Metallica that are not on the surface, but there's connection there, and the connection is intended by Metallica, not some made-up stuff, not forced. And we're not going to include the bunches of Metallica songs that are more than 3, like the number 4 ballads. Let's count: Fade to Black, Sanitarium 1, Unforgiven, Until It Sleeps, Unforgiven 2, and then The Day That Never Comes. 6. We got 6 of them, and there's other kinds of numbers to group different Metallica songs. We'll take only the ones that are grouped in 3, because it's such a neat group, 3, the Holy Trinity, and share the sacred number, like something that you want to keep it that way. That's one of the reasons I believe that Unforgiven 4 won't come. But anything is possible. But anyway, the trilogies, I've counted 3 of them. That's also kind of symbolic. 3 more trilogies by Metallica besides the Unforgiven one. And the first hidden Metallica trilogy is the Cthulhu one. It all began with Cliff Burton. He was a fan of Lovecraft, and he was the one who inspired Metallica to include some of the Lovecraft lore in the Metallica stuff, namely in 2 songs, the first being the one with the name in the title. First full-blown instrumental by Metallica. It has no lyrics to it, but you feel it. You won't say the name, only write it in the title and in the way that is not copyright infringing or actually summoning his entity. But anyway, the first one was The Call of Cthulhu, instrumental. Then the second song of the Cthulhu trilogy by Metallica came on the very next album, Master of Puppets. It is The Thing That Should Not Be. Now the name does not appear in the title, nor in the lyrics, but it's about him. Who, if not about him, or it? And that was probably at that point the most eerie Metallica song, and maybe ever since. It was slow, heavy, chuggy, and basically one of the earliest examples of groove metal. Metallica actually pioneered this genre that way, but that was only the second track, and the third one from the Cthulhu trilogy should wait for the next 30 years. Exactly. Dream No More and Hardwired the album, and now the name is actually said out loud by James. musically, the trilogy is not as connected, maybe in the way that Dream No More and Clearly Should Be are down-tuned and are slow, dragging to, to make the musical version of this monstrosity and everything. But the theme of Cthulhu is there. You cannot deny it. It was the design. There you go. The first Metallica hidden trilogy, the Cthulhu one. Then the next hidden Metallica trilogy that was completed only recently on the latest Metallica album by the latest song. It started on Load, continued on Reload. It is the Aulatorn, Fixer, Innamorata trilogy. Firstly, they are connected by their number on the track list. The last one, each of the songs closes the respective album, and also each of the songs are the longest one on their albums. Fixer being the shortest of the trilogy, just 8:15, I guess. Then the Aulatorn, just below 10 minutes, but it was a whole minute longer. And it was cut, or as the liner note said, cucumbered, to fit in the CD, because Metallica made so much of stuff, it barely fit in a CD. And they had to make sacrifices, and they decided just to cut one of the most badass parts of the whole album, the outro of the Aulatorn, where James Hetfield goes with his solo with some cool licks that unfortunately we don't hear on the studio. It kind of pisses me off. I believe they could have sacrificed bits from all over the album, just from all the songs, just a couple seconds from here and there to make it fit the CD and leave the entire Aulatorn intact. And having such a track on the album that everyone say Metallica sold out, shut the f up. We've got a 10 plus 5 track on the album. What could be more opposite to selling out? And finally, Innamorata is over 11 minutes. That was obviously a conscious decision to make it so long that it was breaking all the Metallica records of duration. And right now, Innamorata stands as the longest original Metallica track. And beside the position on the record, the last track, and the duration being too long, they also have a similar theme, Each of them is rather slow, bluesy, and the Aulatorn has some stoner vibes, and the Fixer has more of a grungy vibes, I guess, because that was the time Metallica was absorbing a lot of influences, such as stoner rock and grunge again, and that turned out in a pretty cool songs on the albums, I believe. Fixer and Aulatorn, man, I cannot find a single Metallica fan who does not love these ones. And Fixer, it has been quite a meme for Metallica. They did not play it, but the fans wanted it. And Metallica were self-aware about it. Lars joked about the Fixer in some April Fool set lists, including that. And finally, they did it on the 40th Metallica anniversary. And after playing it, James said, now you know why we did not want to play it, because it's quite challenging for vocals. These all three have a common theme to it too, besides the just musical elements. It's, I guess, rejection. And so these three make this kind of hidden trilogy by Metallica. And I guess Metallica knew about it, and they deliberately made Innamorata similar to Aulatorn and Fixer. And in general, Innamorata feels not only like the closing track for the trilogy, but like the last Metallica song ever, like they put everything into it, not in terms of technique, but in terms of emotion. But speaking about putting it all in terms of technique, speed, and just going crazy, that's what the next trilogy is about. And the last hidden Metallica trilogy for today, you might suggest more actually, is also about the closing Metallica tracks, but they are the exact opposite to Outlaw, Fixer, and Innamorata. Damage Incorporated, Dire Sieve, and My Apocalypse. And what connects them? They are the last tracks on the albums, and they're crazy. Just Metallica felt like they had to make one track for album, just going all in, cut and loose, and push their limits to the limit. Actually, each of the songs is over 190 BPM. These are the pure thrashers by Metallica, which say that, man, they do deserve belonging to the thrash family. It was apparent and undisputed on Killing Mall. And then Metallica started to make some music more diverse to explore their creativity. And Master of Puppets, we have a lot of songs that were not as trashy, but the closing one, Damage Incorporated, just made up for all the experiments. And the same continued on Justice for All. The whole album is kind of crazy too, but the last one, Darcy, was the fattest point Metallica ever had on an album, and actually on their entire period of the 80s. And after that, we had the Black Album, which was like, now let's calm down. And the Black Album also had kind of fast-ish track closing it, the struggle within, but it's not of that vibe that Damage Incorporated and Darcy. And we'd have to wait 20 years for the next one that still makes a trilogy for it. My Apocalypse, From Death, Magnetic, the comeback Metallica album, and they kind of repeated the set list of Master of Puppets and Injustice for All, including making the craziest track, the last one. With one exception, My Apocalypse does not contain a single swear word, whereas Darcy and Damage Incorporated do have a couple of F-bombs. And well, after that we have Spit Out the Bone on Hardwire, but it's, again, a different kind of track, also a really challenging one, but there's something about Damage, Darcy, and My Apocalypse that maybe them stand out in kind of this neat trilogy. And something tells me that it stays trilogy forever, because the last album had the last track in the way like Load and Reload. And if we are fortunate enough to have another Metallica album, would it be like the opposite? Another one like Damage Incorporated. We'll see. If they have enough energy and thrash left in them, we might have one. Like we had Darcy at the fat point in their 80s. Maybe such track would be the fat fucking point in Metallica discography, legacy, and career. What do you think? If you have any more trilogies, write them in comments.